Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is genuinely the most massive paradigm shift in technology we've seen in decades. Seriously, it's that big. We're officially moving away from passive AI, the kind that just waits around for your prompt, and stepping right into the era of active digital workers. Just think about your current routine for a second. You probably spend way too much time writing prompts, copying text, pasting it somewhere else, and manually stitching together answers from an AI. Now, don't get me wrong, ChatGPT can answer your questions beautifully, but what if you could give AI a goal and let it actually do the work? Imagine if the AI didn't just spit out a dinner recipe, but actually went over to the grocery store website, navigated the virtual aisles, and put all the ingredients right into your cart. That is exactly the leap we're diving into today. Okay, let's take a quick look at how rapidly we actually got here. Back in 2023, the whole world was completely obsessed with basic chatbots. Remember that? They were essentially incredibly smart encyclopedias that could just generate text on command. Then, by 2024, the focus shifted to large language models, those massive reasoning engines powering everything behind the scenes. But here we are in 2026, and the technology has fundamentally evolved into AI agents. We've officially moved from models that just talk to you to autonomous systems that take action on your behalf, completely skipping the part where you have to hold their hand every step of the way. To really grasp this difference, think of a traditional chatbot like having a passenger in your car who's holding a map. They can tell you exactly where to turn, and they're incredibly knowledgeable about the route, but they only give directions when you explicitly ask them to. And, at the end of the day, you still have to keep your hands on the steering wheel and do all the actual driving. An AI agent, on the other hand, it's like getting into a self-driving taxi. You simply tell it your destination, your ultimate goal, and you just sit back. It calculates the route, navigates the traffic, adjusts for any unexpected detours, and literally drives you there autonomously. So how exactly does this self-driving taxi actually work under the hood? Well, an AI agent isn't just a language model sitting by itself. The language model is merely the reasoning engine at the very center of the system. To make it an actual agent, that engine gets wrapped in a crucial support system. First up, it needs memory, to remember your past interactions and understand your specific project guidelines. Then it needs planning abilities, right? To take some massive goal and break it down into bite-sized manageable tasks. It also needs tools to reach out and actually touch the digital world. And absolutely crucially, it needs a feedback mechanism, a way to step back and evaluate if the action it just took actually worked. And this brilliantly illustrates the continuous cycle these agents use to get things done. It always starts when you give it a goal, it makes a plan, selects the right tools, and takes an action. But here's the absolute magic step. It observes the result. If it runs into an error, maybe a broken web page, a button that moved, or a failed login, it doesn't just freeze up and crash like older software would. No way. It feeds that error right back into its reasoning engine, tweaks its plan, and tries a completely different approach until it hits the final result. It literally self-corrects and adapts on the fly. Now, to actually take those actions, agents obviously need to connect to your software. And that brings us to a massive breakthrough you need to know about, the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Before this existed, developers literally had to write messy, custom code for every single app they wanted the AI to talk to. It was a nightmare. MCP changed all of that. Think of it as a universal adapter. It's essentially the ultimate USB-C cable for AI. It gives agents a standardized, totally secure way to instantly plug into external data, internal company files, and all your everyday software tools, entirely eliminating the need to write custom integrations over and over again. But what if the software doesn't have a direct connection available? Like, what if it's some clunky, outdated program from a decade ago? Well, this is where we literally give AI hands and eyes, a feature known as computer use. Modern agents can operate a totally normal desktop interface just like a human does. They essentially take a screenshot of your monitor, use computer vision to literally see what's on your screen, figure out what to do, and then control a virtual mouse and keyboard to physically click buttons and type text. They can navigate legacy enterprise software that was built 20 years ago, simply by looking at the screen and interacting with it. It's wild. Now, what's really interesting about this is the massive contrast with the old way of doing things. Think about traditional automation for a second. The kinds of macros and scripts businesses have relied on for years. They rely on static, incredibly brittle rules. If a website updates its design and a submit button moves, say, just 10 pixels to the left, that traditional script completely breaks because it's essentially blind. AI agents, however, are totally dynamic. Because they actually read the screen and understand their ultimate goal, if a button moves or some unexpected pop-up appears out of nowhere, the agent just reads the new layout, understands the change, closes the pop-up, and clicks the right button anyway. They just adapt in real time.
Let's ground all this tech with some practical, real-world examples of what's happening right now. Over in finance departments, agents are independently digging through databases to find unpaid invoices, cross-referencing them with month-old email histories, and then drafting these perfectly tailored, polite follow-up emails to clients. Or, in everyday admin stuff, imagine asking an agent to find the cheapest flights for a weekend getaway. It'll go out, compare everything on live websites, read all the fine print, and book a complex travel itinerary for you. These agents are taking over the tedious, repetitive, multi-step work that usually eats up your entire afternoon, which frees you up to actually focus on the big picture.
Of course, we have to look at the full picture here, and that absolutely includes the current limitations and real risks. Because the very things that make agents so powerful, like their ability to autonomously browse the web and access your tools, also create some pretty unique security vulnerabilities. Think about it like a stranger walking up and handing your taxi driver a new address through the window. If an agent is reading a random website, a malicious hidden text prompt on that site could try to hijack the agent's instructions and trick it into doing something you definitely didn't ask for. There are also risks of the AI hallucinating a bad plan, not to mention the actual tangible computing cost of running these complex continuous loops.
So the crucial point is really how we manage these risks safely, and this is handled through what we call approval loops. Enterprise systems use a very simple visual traffic light security pattern. Green light actions, like simply reading some data or summarizing a file, happen completely automatically. Yellow light actions, like drafting an email, will notify a human who can step in and revoke it if necessary. But red light actions, things like transferring money, deleting important files, or making a final purchase, those always halt the agent right in its tracks. The agent literally has to wait for a human operator to look it over and click approve before executing. You are always firmly in the loop for high-impact decisions.
Let's move to where this is all heading and see how this builds into the broader future of AI, multi-agent choreography. As tasks get more and more complex, you don't just rely on one massive, expensive AI model to try and do absolutely everything. Instead, new frameworks are allowing us to orchestrate entire teams of specialized agents. You can string together different agents, each with their own highly specific tools, their own memory, and specialized instructions, which allows them to handle massive, company-wide workflows collaboratively.
Honestly, the best way to understand this is the restaurant kitchen analogy. Think about it. In a real high-end kitchen, you wouldn't expect one single chef to chop the vegetables, grill the steak, bake the dessert, and wash the dishes all at the same time, right? In a multi-agent system, it works the exact same way. You might have a researcher agent dedicated solely to gathering facts. It hands those facts over to a writer agent that drafts the document. Then, that draft goes to an editor agent for review, and finally, over to a publisher agent. They're highly specialized digital coworkers. This really proves that AI agents aren't these holistic human replacements coming for your job. They are specialized tools designed to massively scale your team's output.
And that brings us to our absolute core takeaway for today. It's simple. Chatbots answer questions. AI agents pursue goals and take actions. The era of simply chatting with an AI is fading, and the era of managing your own digital workforce has officially arrived. The question isn't really whether you'll have a digital team at your disposal. The question is, what impossible goals are you going to give them first? To help you figure that out, I'm inviting you to join the 60-Day AI and Tech Challenge, where we'll be exploring exactly how to implement these tools into your daily life. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.